Hello, this is Chaotix, and welcome to the first non-Roblox challenge run on this channel. Ahead in Time is a cute as peck 3D platformer that tasks you to explore a bunch of worlds as an alien with an excellent sense of fashion in order to grab a bunch of supposedly useful hourglasses. During your voyages, you'll be crafting a bunch of unique hats that adds more tools and abilities to Hatkid's arsenal. Unfortunately, I've seemed to have misplaced my hat somewhere out in the vast reaches of space, and the radar for finding said hat was also my hat. Can you beat Ahead in Time without hats? The rules are simple. At no point during the entire game are we allowed to use any hat abilities. Outside of that, we're free to do anything that lets us reach our goal, but we also have a bonus challenge. We're going to find out if it's possible to also complete the game without using any badges. The run ends when we all collectively tell the final boss to get lost. We'll be playing on the latest vanilla PC version of the game using the keyboard and mouse. No mods, downpatching, or external programs will be used for this run. The default bind for using hat abilities when playing on keyboard is left shift, and while there is a way of rebinding keyboard controls using an INI file, I instead simply opted to not press the button. In order to access the finale at time's end, we'll need to obtain 25 timepieces. Additionally, the game expects us to collect several hats and badges in order to actually complete the game. These include the Brewing Hat, the Dweller's Mask, the Ice Hat, and the Hookshot Badge. We start with one area, Mafia Town, but over time, as we collect more timepieces, we'll open up new worlds to explore. Mafia Town is a great place to get acquainted with our moveset. The early game will be no different from a casual playthrough. The game doesn't expect you to have hats during this part of the game anyway, so hat usage is almost always limited to optional collectibles. Almost every single mission in Mafia Town is completely doable without using a single hat ability, including the boss fight and the Mafia boss fight. During this time, you'll also be able to grab enough yarn to craft the Brewing Hat, one of the 3 hats supposedly required to enter the finale. Spoiler alert, we won't be needing any of them. It's also important to not open any chests you see along the way, as we'll be using them for the only level to give us any trouble here, cheating the race. As the name implies, you need to cheat the race with this Mafia goon, and the dev intended way to cheat is by using the time stop hat, which is almost completely optional even during a normal casual playthrough. Instead, we'll be cheating. Start the race, take a short path over to this chest, open it, and then sip a latte. Wait for the Mafia Goon to reach the end, and then close the menu. How this mission works is when the Mafia Goon reaches the end, a trigger is activated that forces us to die a painful death in order to restart the mission. By leaving this menu open, however, we prevent ourselves from dying, and therefore prevent ourselves from losing. So while we don't really win the race, there's nothing stopping us from stealing the prize directly in front of his face. However, it's very important that you do not have auto-skipping cutscenes enabled. If you do, then this glitch won't actually work. I actually made a big mistake here in my final run by forgetting to turn the option off when reaching this section, meaning the regular chest that I used during my practice runs was no longer usable. Instead, I had to take a different and much more difficult route to this other chest, dying a few times along the way. Nevertheless, it's more than doable with enough practice. After successfully cheating the race by cheating, I recommend collecting the relics scattered across the map, as well as collecting as many pawns as possible. The main chunk of this run is actually just getting the amount of pawns required to unlock levels, so the sooner you do this now, the less you'll have to do later on. In my run, I kind of wibble-wobble between different worlds depending on how many pawns I had available at the time. The general routing, however, shouldn't really change. Completing all of Mafia Town's main levels will give us 7 timepieces and access to Subcon Forest without ever touching Battle of the Birds. Both blue time rifts are also easily doable, bringing our total counter up to 9. Since we have access to Subcon Forest before even touching Battle of the Birds, I opted to head over there first. Doing this now not only gets us some more timepieces, but also the Hookshot Badge. The Hookshot Badge is outright required for certain missions, and it makes other missions way easier. But since we're doing the bonus challenge, let's see how much we can get away without it. In the Subcon well, you can easily get out of the room containing the hookshot with some fancy platforming. The second room, however, is a little bit more dicey. The intended solution is to use the hookshot to pull the cork from the pipe in order to advance upwards. Instead, head near underneath this platform, let go of your movement keys, and start swinging. These icicles are legally steep slopes, usually designed to be too slippery to actually move up. However, the game only checks to see if you're moving in order to send you back down. Thankfully, we're not moving. Swinging nudges us in whatever direction we're currently facing, and since we're not actually moving, the game doesn't mind us being here, thus allowing us to move up the slope. However, if you hit the wall, the game will send you backwards, and the game will finally recognize you're not supposed to be here. When you're as close as the wall as you possibly can, perform a double jump, wall climb, and then jump to reach this platform. Once we reach this platform, we're not exactly done yet. There's an invisible wall here that actually only unloads if the cork is removed, so we need to navigate our way around it. Jump up to this platform, jump up to the pipe, and continue the intended path until you reach these 3 lanterns. Luckily, the branches these lanterns are on actually have collision, so we can safely jump on them and then complete the level where you get the hookshot without the hookshot. Queen Vanessa's Manor is also a free timepiece after performing the speedrunning skip, and it also unlocks a village time rift, both easily doable without any hats or badges. Unfortunately, this is where our main challenge finally has implications. Mail delivery service requires us to use a scooter in order to throw mail directly in the denizens' faces, and unfortunately scooters are legally hats. Due to our inability to use private transportation, access to the boss fight with Snatcher is also not possible, losing out on 2 timepieces and our only chance of getting our soul back. But that's not all. Because of the bonus challenge, we also lose access on 2 more timepieces, those being the Toilet of Doom and the Pipe Time Rift. These levels are straight up not happening without the hookshot badge, so we won't be doing these unless absolutely necessary. Thankfully, a soul is completely optional in order to complete the game, so let's not worry too much about that. Back over to the land of public transportation, no missions in Battle of the Birds require any sort of fancy hat shenanigans. However, this is where we reach an impasse. Train Rush absolutely requires you to use the hookshot badge. No ifs, ands, or buts. The level won't even start until you activate a switch using it. Because of this, we lose out on Train Rush's timepiece, Award Ceremony's timepiece, Deadbird Studio Basement's timepiece, and the Moon Time Rift. Another 4 timepieces unable to be grabbed because we're not using the hookshot. All isn't yet lost, however. By this point, you've likely collected some relics. Completing a relic will grant access to a purple time rift, most of which are completely doable without any hat abilities. But we have another problem, and those who've beaten the game will probably realize this very quickly. We can't actually unlock all of the purple time rifts, even if we collect all the relics. 2 of the relic stands required to build said relics are locked behind hat usage. We cannot access the one near the gallery time rift and the one near the lab time rift, as the gallery time rift requires blowing up crates using the brewing hat, and the lab time rift requires using the dweller's mask. And even if we had access to all of them, we wouldn't be able to access Alpine Skyline's purple time rift since, well, we need to go to Alpine Skyline, which isn't an option if we're not using the hookshot. Because we can't access him, that's another 4 timepieces we're unfortunately missing out on. Completing the 2 purple time rifts we have access to will bring our total timepiece count to 20. So, what's the big deal? There are 40 timepieces in the vanilla game, and we need only 25 to access Time's End. So we just need 5 more timepieces, right? We have 20 timepieces right now. All 10 from Mafia Town, 6 timepieces from Battle of the Birds, and 4 from Subcon Forest. We are unable to get 4 from Battle of the Birds, 5 from Subcon Forest, all 8 timepieces from Alpine Skyline, 2 from Hatkid's Spaceship, and 1 more from Time's End. You might have noticed a problem. Adding up all of the timepieces we are unable to get equals 20. We are unable to get half of the timepieces in this game because of our inability to use hats or the hookshot badge. So, unfortunately, we have to throw in the towel, fail the bonus challenge, and use the hookshot. Now comes the question of what one level can we do that will give us access to the most timepieces? And, well, we actually mentioned it earlier. Train Rush. Doing so will give us access to 4 timepieces. But of course, since I like making things needlessly complicated, let's find out how many levels we actually need to use the hookshot badge for. With Train Rush completed, we now have access to the Moon Time Rift, Award Ceremony, and the big one, Deadbird Studio Basement. In a normal dev-intended playthrough, this level absolutely requires you to use the hookshot in multiple sections. This isn't how I intend to play through, however. If you jump to this mesh cage and align yourself against the wall next to this pillar, you can actually wall climb up. To climb up the pipe as well, very importantly, do not press jump here. Instead, press your crouch button to stop wall climbing, and doing so will let you wall climb up the pillar. Crouching again will let you wall climb up the wall again, and so on so forth. Once we reach the top here, carefully navigate Hatkid to the left, being sure not to let it go down too quickly. The best way I've found of doing this is to simply press down, left, and up in rapid succession. Once you're relatively close to the left edge, make a leap of faith towards the door and complete the first section. The second section thankfully doesn't require the hookshot at all, but the third and final section absolutely does. So don't bother with it. Make your way to this door frame just before the vent. Jump on the door frame and do a precise jump to climb up the ledge and skip this entire section. After punching the penguin in the face and collecting every other timepiece in Battle of the Birds, we reached 24 out of the 25 required to access the endgame. There are several places you could go to obtain this last timepiece, but I opted to go straight for the pipe time rift in Subcon Forest, mostly because it was the quickest. With another hookshot usage added to the counter, we now have all 25 timepieces to enter Time's End. Next up, the finale. Mission failed. We absolutely cannot reach the telescope to access Time's End without using at least 2 hats. The Dweller's Mask and the Brewing Hat. The ice hat can be skipped by jumping off the Dweller platform and hitting the button from below. The other 2 switches are no way, no how impossible to press. There is quite literally nothing you can do to hit these 2 switches. So if we can't open the gate, then we'll just have to go through it. Stand on this clock as high as you can, jump forward and slightly to the right, double jump forward and slightly to the left, perform a dive, and cancel it. If done properly, you may notice that you'll wall climb on the left wall. Then, at the apex of the wall climb, jump towards the telescope. This trick is the most difficult in the run and will absolutely take several attempts. Keep bashing your head against this wall for several minutes until eventually this wall climb will get you past the gate. No hats required. This run is officially a go. In the finale, you'll have to follow a specific path to avoid using any hat abilities. In this section that requires the ice hat, just perform a double jump and dive to land just out of reach of the nearby platform. The lava should send you upwards to your destination. In this section, you can jump on the first platform and then jump past the platform blocked by the brewing crate to wall climb to the next platform. Over here, in this clearly hookshot intended area, you can jump down towards this pillar, allowing you to chain wall climbs and get on top of the lava faucets, giving you an easy way to fall directly into the game's final major roadblock. A literal giant wall that covers the entire doorway. The only option to get past is to use the Dweller's Mask, and using the Dweller's Mask is not an option. I was stuck here for an incredibly long time until I finally gave in and looked up a speedrun guide. The guys over on the speedrun.com page brought me to a couple of options, one of which, known as a boop clip, seemed to be the most viable option. One problem though, that requires either down patching the game or patching the game to re-implement the bug, and as mentioned in the rules, we're using the latest vanilla version of the game, so that's a no-go. Alternatively, there are lag clips. By jumping towards a grabbable ledge, lagging the game just before grabbing it and holding jump and forward, you can clip through the ledge and potentially some floors and walls. Whilst I was able to get some lag clips, none of them seem to be all that useful, often either leading me to my death or a soft lock. I imagine there's probably a way to use lag clips to get past this wall, but I'm bad at video games, so I'm going to be throwing in the towel. Important note, however, is that most speedrunners use a program known as hat lag, specifically designed to lag the game for exactly 400 milliseconds at the press of a key, instead of doing it manually to make speedrunning the game much more consistent. On some computers, hat lag is the only way to even perform lag clips. Whether this is considered cheating depends on the person, and I know a few of you are probably going to call this run invalid if I was successful in my attempts. I did mention that external programs wouldn't be used for this run, so of course this wouldn't actually count. I just wanted to see if it was possible by doing so. This is where I was stuck for the longest time. The script was actually created nearly 2 years ago, stuck on this specific spot. A single doorway preventing me from completing the challenge. And so that's where this script stood for a while. Mission failed. I didn't want to leave viewers with a disappointing result like that after watching nearly the whole thing, so I ended up scrapping the video idea. I never deleted the script or any of my old footage on the off chance that maybe I'd find something, but I ended up moving on to other things. Except I still kept playing ahead in time, for one major reason: Archipelago randomizers. I'll have a proper video on Archipelago sometime in the future, but the basic gist is that it's a multi-game randomizer where collecting an item in one game will send an item to another. So for example, collecting a timepiece in a hat in time will send an emblem to Sonic Adventure 2. Completing a level in Sonic Adventure 2 will send a star to Super Mario 64, and so on. I kept playing a hat in time in Archipelago sessions, learning new tricks that I had never seen or done before. In fact, these Archipelago sessions were how I learned Subcon well without the hookshot, and accessing the finale telescope without any hats. Despite all of that, the document explaining all of the logic tricks never had anything relating to getting past this barrier without any hats. So this run sat in the back of my mind, biding its time, until eventually, something happened. A few weeks ago, I was getting set up to join a community archipelago session with content creator Chrism360, hanging out with a few other people playing Ahead in Time. One of these people was TAGM, one of the only expert logic runners in this session. They were randomly showing off a few glitches in the Ahead in Time voice chats, and one in particular stood out the most. Pause clips. Possibly one of the easiest ways to clip in Ahead in Time. Pause clips are extremely simple. Grab onto a ledge, then jump and pause around the same time. Then, whilst pause, hold down the direction the wall is facing, and then unpause whilst holding said direction. If done correctly, you'll clip through the wall. You can slow down time a little bit by holding down the hat selection menu as well, giving you more time to react. And this one trick, this one singular trick, on some random content creators Discord, was the missing piece I had been searching for nearly 2 years. So how do we use this to get past this wall? You need to be hanging off this ledge on the left side. Then, press jump to pull yourself up and pause the game at around the exact same time. Afterwards, hold left and unpause the game. If done correctly, you will clip through the sidewall. And if you find it happening too fast, you can hold down the hat selection to slow down time. If done perfectly, you'll be able to do a quick jump, getting you to the other side. And there's only one thing left to do in order to get past this wall. Die a painful death. The lava from the floor extends below out of bounds, meaning that it's possible to hurt yourself on it whilst out of bounds. If you touch the lava that's before the door, you'll die a painful death incorrectly and you'll have to redo the trick again. If you touch the lava past the door, however, dying a painful death there will respawn you past the wall. After getting past that final major roadblock, there is one final minor roadblock. This balloon section without the hookshot. It seems nearly impossible at first, but there's actually a very simple way of getting past this. If you cancel your dive as soon as you hit the ground, you'll do a dive boost. You've probably seen me doing this all game to move faster, seeing as I don't have access to the sprint hat. Dive boosting into the balloons will give you the momentum needed to cross the gap and reach the final boss, which requires no hats even on a casual playthrough. With Mustache Girl defeated and our hat clearly lost to the sands of time, the Ahead in Time No Hats run is mission complete, and with a total of only 2 uses of the hookshot badge. If you want to try out this run for yourself, it is highly recommended. I'm so happy I finally got to finish this run after all this time. Ahead in Time is one of my favorite 3D platformers ever, and I had always wanted to try doing a challenge run myself. I had a feeling the game's jank would make this run possible, but I had no way of knowing how to execute it until now. Special major shoutouts go to TAGM for introducing me to pause clips, making this entire run possible. Additionally, a lot of these tricks I never would have learned or discovered if it wasn't for the Archipelago Discord, as well as Chrism360's Discord. And finally, a massive shoutout to the inspiration for me doing these challenge runs, GameChamp3K. Her challenge runs are what inspired me to start my own challenge runs, and these videos would not exist without her. If you've enjoyed this video but haven't yet seen her content, absolutely do so. I also want to give a shout out to both That Guy Trav and Bringle. They both attempted similar runs a while ago, but both had to actually downpatch their game to version 1.0 in order to actually complete the run. I originally watched these runs after I had attempted my own run nearly 2 years ago, and assumed because they had to downpatch the game, it was impossible to complete this run without doing so. And at that point, I'd just be stealing someone else's video. Definitely give their videos a watch though if you want to see what the finale looks like on version 1.0. It's very different. Additionally, I imagine the pipe time rift could be technically possible without hookshot by abusing a second player or even using online party, but I just didn't have the time or knowledge to figure that out. If you do manage to figure it out though, let me know. And of course, thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, like, comment, and subscribe. That's what everyone says to me anyway. I stream sometimes, and I have a Patreon if you want to support the channel in a more direct way and gain some cool perks. And a very special thank you to all my magicians and a Chronomancer, Mago's Artistic Corner. I also have a Discord server, the link's in the description. A link to the full run on my second channel, Chaotix 9, will be in the description as well. And with that, I shall see you all next time. Ciao for now!